Getting married or buying a home is a major turning point in one's life. It's supposed to be a joyous occasion and should change your life for the better. In my case, it was very different. I never dreamed something like that would happen to me. I'm Tracy, 35 years old. I started thinking about marrying my husband Steve about 2 years ago. We had been dating since high school. It was a tumultuous relationship of breaking up and getting back together. Before I knew it, I was already 33 years old. We had been together so long that we were like an old married couple. Although I didn't care much about marriage at that point, I felt dizzy to imagine starting a new relationship if we broke up. I was also afraid to miss the chance of getting married in the future. My parents were eager for me to marry Steve right away. I still contemplated and worried about losing my freedom though. I spanked Steve's butt and we finally got married the year before. We had already been living together, so the marriage didn't make a difference in our lifestyle. Only my parents seemed to be relieved that I got it done. They had been concerned and been asking me ever since my older sister got married. Are you on track? When will you get married? It seems that they were waiting for their grandchildren to come next. When I saw them talking excitedly about my marriage and grandchildren, I felt pleased to have made them happy. Steve, on the other hand, lost his father several years ago, so his mother, Penny, was his only family. She lived just a 5 minutes drive from our house, but I hardly ever saw her. The reason was simple. I didn't like her much. My parents were rather mild-mannered and soft-spoken. Penny was somewhat sarcastic and harsh. When I went to visit her in high school, she used to say things like, "You are here again?" Once I overheard her telling Steve, "You have bad taste in women." I was quite hurt back then, but it never occurred to me to break up with him just because his mother didn't like me. I used to be in my friendliest manner in front of her to be liked. When it was her birthday, I worked hard at my part-time job and bought gifts for her. Regardless, her attitude never changed toward me, so I eventually stopped trying so hard and started to avoid seeing her instead. One day, I received a rare phone call from her. I didn't even have her number saved in my phone, so I didn't know who it was at first. When I answered, I heard her voice. "Hey Tracy, I asked Steve for your number. I want to talk to you about something. Can you come over today?" Although I hadn't spoken to her for a long time, she sounded to be in a good mood. Since I had been avoiding her, I felt a little relieved that she might have been happy about our marriage. "Okay, I will come after I finish my work." I was a freelance web designer. I used to work for a company, but I became independent after I made good connections. Thankfully, my income was more than twice as much as when I was an employee. I worked from home and was able to adjust my hours to suit my needs. However, I had to do my chores as well. "Then can you come over in the evening?" Penny asked me. "I have to prepare dinner." I was about to refuse. "Steve will probably be working late tonight, so I think he will have dinner outside." I wondered how she knew about it. Was he in frequent contact with her that I just didn't know about? I was surprised. Well, she was his mother and lived alone, so he must have concern about her. I convinced myself with my thoughts. Okay, I will be there around 6 p.m. I promised and hung up the phone. Steve had been coming home late from work. I thought that he might have been visiting her. After all, it's only the two of them in the family, so they must have needed to help each other. I was thinking positively about it. In the end, it was only wishful thinking on my part. A few hours later, "Hi Penny, it's been a while." I greeted her by handing her a box of sweets I bought in the neighborhood. She smiled and tossed it aside without thanking me. Her gesture gave me a bad feeling. I followed her into the living room, feeling a little annoyed. As soon as we sat down on the sofa, "Hey, are you building a house?" she asked me. "Oh, you heard from Steve. I want a bigger workspace, and if we are going to move, we might as well build a house. Nothing concrete has been decided yet." I was a little surprised that she already knew, but Steve was chatty, so he must have mentioned it to her. What she told me next was quite shocking though. "Oh, good. Then it's not too late. Can you make a room for me too? I'm getting old, you know. I feel lonely living alone." That's a bit sudden. It was totally out of the blue. I couldn't immediately give her an answer. "Why not? You're making a lot of money, and Steve too is working. If you could build a 2-story house with separate entrance, we won't see each other much. But if something happened, it's easier to help each other out. If you have a baby, I can babysit. You can continue working as usual." She had the point. If we did have a child in the future, it would have been nice to have someone to help me out. Then I would talk it over with Steve. "Oh, he always knows about it." About living together? I hadn't heard anything from him. "He has already given his approval. Besides, he says your savings will be enough to cover it." "What? No, he hasn't said anything to me. And why should we build a house with my saving? He has been working too." I couldn't help but raise my voice. I was flabbergasted by the unexpected turn of events and wondered how it came to be that way. "Because he hasn't been able to hold down a job for very long and hasn't saved a lot of money. You can pay up first, and I will pay you later when this house sells. I've already gotten a quote from a real estate agent." She was calm, as if she had already made up her mind. "You've already made arrangement to sell the house? Well, I understand what you've said so far. I will talk to Steve, so please wait. I'm leaving now." I left her house and groaned over the situation. Then I took out my phone to call Steve. There was a message from him saying, "I'm going out with my clients, so I don't need dinner." Penny was right. I thought she was closer than me to him. Penny just spoke to me about living together. I sent a reply, but it didn't get 2 ticks. In the end, he didn't return home until after midnight. I wanted to discuss the matter with him as soon as possible, but he was coming home late every day, and we couldn't find time to talk. I was freaking out that Penny was going to sell the house at any moment. I threatened him by saying that if he wasn't home on Sunday, we weren't going to build a new house. And the day came. Steve had been playing video games in his pajamas since morning. "Hey, what are we going to do about the house?" "Oh no, I'm already busted." He was so engrossed in the game that the conversation didn't go anywhere. "Hey, are you listening to me? I've been thinking about the mortgage. From the beginning again." I was getting irritated. I didn't want him to complain later that he wasn't aware of anything, so I recorded the audio while I explained about the mortgage. "So that's the type of mortgage we are going to get. Don't complain about it later, okay?" "What the hell is this stupid game? Let's play a different one." I was beginning to wonder if our marriage was a good idea. At that moment, Steve's cell phone got a notification ring. "I'm going to step out for a bit." He got dressed and went out. I didn't think anything of it other than he was so carefree, but I should have suspected him at that point. I contemplated the house a lot and agreed with what Penny said. I tried to think positively that living together would have been more comfortable than I expected, and we decided to build a 2-story house in the end. In any case, I was very happy to have a new home of my own. The exterior was completed, and then the interior was done. The dream home was steadily becoming a reality. Steve left everything to me, saying he had no idea and was too busy. When I needed a signature from the head of the household, he signed quickly as directed without even trying to read the contents. Although I was annoyed by his aloofness, he left me alone to do whatever and however I wanted. From the start of construction to the completion, everything went smoothly as I had imagined. Finally, the day of the handover arrived. On that day, Steve and Penny went to the real estate agency to get the new keys. I had to work, so I headed straight there after meeting with a client. When I arrived, they were already waiting in the front. Whoa, it's finally done! Our own home! My ideal house, amazing! I'm so happy! I ran up to them in excitement. It's true, it's a big, beautiful house. It's magnificent. I don't know how to thank you. Thank you for everything until now, Tracy. Penny happily mentioned. Until now? Do you mean the procedures? It was a lot of stress, but when I saw this house, all that was blown away. I exclaimed. Well, I'm sorry, but can you also blow away with the feelings? Excuse me? I just stood there not understanding what he meant. Hello? A woman came out of the car. She is the daughter of the president of my work. I want to marry her. Please divorce me. He said it like he was just canceling a date with me. I was at a loss for words when Penny spoke. So that's that. You're nothing compared to the boss' daughter. He's going to get a promotion in the company, so you should understand and back off. Oh, but the mortgage on the house is in your name, right? I will thank you for that. No way, you're kidding. So you knew it too, Penny? You two were in on it together. That's terrible. You've been home late. Was it because you were seeing this woman? How dare you? I was so confused by what was going on that I just blurted out whatever came to mind. The woman was outrageous too. It is what it is. I'm sorry. How could she take someone's husband and act nonchalantly? I thought someone would tell me it was a joke, but no one did. I eventually realized that everyone was dead serious, and my blood drained from my face. I was in tears of defeat, unable to step foot inside my new home, and left the place hearing their laughter. I spent 3 days and 3 nights crying, but my parents helped me regain my strength. I eventually went back to work and kept myself busy tackling the work that had piled up. Fortunately, I didn't have time to ponder about the calamity, but when it popped even a second into my mind, I felt great distress. I wasn't just going to cry myself to sleep. I didn't plan to forgive them so easily. Then I was offered a new project with the biggest paycheck ever. It was an opportunity for a fresh start. I fell behind Steve, who moved his stuff out first, but I moved into a beautiful luxury apartment. When my move was done and settled, I decided to start my revenge against him. Of course, I wanted to make Penny sorry too. A few days later, I met up with him at the coffee shop and told him that I wanted to settle everything and that I would sign the divorce papers. So, I want you to sign these divorce papers and also the property division and all that. Sign here and here. He signed as he was told without checking anything. When he was done, thank you. Please take care of the rest of the loan, I cheerfully mentioned. What are you talking about? The mortgage on that house is in your name, right? He smirked. Don't you remember this? I played a recording of me suggesting to get a joint loan while he was playing a game. What's this? I don't remember it. What's a joint loan? Even if he didn't remember, it was clearly on the recording. Besides, You signed the papers yourself. A joint loan is an agreement between a husband and a wife that they will pay the mortgage together. The documents that he signed without reading them also contain an application for the loan.
Am I supposed to pay for half of the loan? That's impossible.
I couldn't stand his attitude to still try to escape after all he had done. I'm sorry to hear that. You signed the papers just now, didn't you? After what happened, I consulted with the bank I borrowed from and my lawyer. We consolidated the loan into one in your name, since you will continue to live in the house. You're going to have to pay for everything.
What are you talking about? You can't do.
I could do it. My parents were out of the world furious. You know my father was a banker, right? His ex-subordinates hold high positions now. One of them took care of the loan stuff for me. He was the one who advised me on the joint loan. So I told him everything that had happened, and he told me how to transfer the mortgage to you. Steve's face grew paler by the second.
Wait, you didn't. Actually, I tried living with the boss's daughter, but things didn't work out. She's back at her parents' house right now. The president is angry with me. He said he was going to cancel my promotion. I'm not getting a raise, and if we don't reconcile, I won't be able to stay at the company.
I could care less. I was betrayed by him in front of me, a guy I had been with for years. Suck it up. You will get the loan documents in the mail later. You can take care of the rest. It's none of my business now.
Honey, don't say that. Help me.
He started crying in the cafe, and people around him were staring at him. He was about to say something, but I didn't want to hear anything else. I hoped he would be punished for treating me like a cash machine. After I walked a few steps away from the table, I realized that I forgot to leave money for the coffee and went back.
It's just a coffee. I will pay for it,
Steve mumbled. After all the talk about hundreds of thousands of dollars, it may not be a big deal. I just don't want to owe you even a penny. Tears welled up in his eyes again. A grown man crying in a coffee shop was a hideous sight. I quietly put the $10 bill on the table and left. A few months later, the house is up for sale. My father has been in contact with his ex-subordinate. I've heard that Steve fell behind on the payments after paying a certain amount from the sale of Penny's house. He resigned from his job, so I assume that the woman dumped him. I wonder what he's going to do with the rest of the loan until he finds a buyer. He has been unable to find a job and currently have no income, so he's living in a small apartment with Penny. She's working as a cleaner to make ends meet. As for me, my work is going well, and I'm busy but fulfilled every day. I'm increasingly being entrusted with web designers for major companies. I recently worked on a corporate website. The irony was that it was a page for a major real estate company's family home campaign. In any case, it is a joy to see my parents happy when they see what I have created. As my network of business contacts expands, I've met a guy who catches my attention. He is a hard-working competitor. I'm 35 years old now. I can start over however I want. It's up to the person to decide where life starts to get interesting.